So our final panel of the day before we hear our closing keynote speaker, Eric Corey Freed. Um, so this panel, I thought, because Eric is the closing keynote, and he inspired the theme actually, which was designing the outcomes. My conversation with him inspired this idea of how do we design the outcomes. And I thought, well, before we hear about how we think about designing the outcomes, I think we should hear about how the next generation. I'm a parent of two Gen they Gen Zs, teenagers. I'm a parent of two teenagers. And it's so fascinating to me and empowering to me and exciting the people who were working with these teenagers as they are solving food system challenges. And so the teenagers were in school, but we did the next best thing, which is find the adults who help the teenagers get done what they need to get done. So I'm going to start by just introducing our moderator, Sally Sampson. So Sally is actually on the Food Nutrition Innovation Council and an EA as founder of Chop Chop Magazine. And Chop Chop, I love. It's what I used to see in the pediatrician's office when I go. But it's a great magazine that teaches families to teach kids how to cook. It really teaches kids how to cook. It's a great children's magazine. If you haven't seen it, you should. Sally can get you one. She's great at that. But Sally, the floor is yours to moderate this amazing panel.
I am going to actually ask each of you to.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Monique Mades. I'm here from Pueblo, Colorado. I have a consulting practice called Eptimizo, where I focus on creating a more just food system. I have experience at every scale of the food system. I've done just about every single job, grassroots organizing all the way up to international trade policy and executing projects in around 38 countries around the world. And I'm here today to talk about the work I'm doing with the Pueblo Fujikits, which is a group of teens in Pueblo, Colorado, working to improve our food system there.
And Monique, we're supposed to have pictures that come up. And our production guys out back, do we have the on the slide? Hallie, who's got everything. We just wanted to make sure that as they were introducing themselves, they all gave us some slides. There we go. So Monique, if
Yeah. Yes, that is mine. So you see some of our students giving a report to City Council, supporting work at our local soup kitchen, implementing a project they devised called Fruits of Love, take-home DIY salad dressing workshop and salad bar that they created. And this is a meal kit concept that they put together. These are all of their ideas that they created fundraising for. Yeah, we'll talk about more about that later, but yeah, these are some of our students.
Hi, I'm Chris Austin. I'm the Director of Food Enterprise. Oh, it's my slides. At UTEC up in Lowell, Massachusetts. UTEC is a youth organization that was founded by Lowell youth 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, who wanted an alternative to a lot of the violence and things that were happening in the streets of Lowell, so they created UTEC. Through the years, we've evolved, and currently we serve proven risk young adults in Lowell, Lawrence, and Haverhill, so right up the Merrimack Valley. And these are young adults who have been gang involved, court involved, are experiencing or have experienced trauma in their lives. And we serve them through a variety of different programs. We have high set education for high school credential, mental health counseling, transitional coaching, and then so we operate a suite of social enterprises that operate as a workforce development program as well. So I'm here to talk about our food enterprises today.
Great. And I'm Renee Cairns. I'm the Advocacy and Community Engagement Manager with Teens for Food Justice. Teens for Food Justice is a New York City-based nonprofit galvanizing a youth-led food justice movement to ensure that all of our communities have access to fresh, healthy food and to end the health disparities that we far too often see disproportionately impacting our low-income communities and our communities of color. And as you can see in the photos, we do that through indoor, high-capacity hydroponic farming. We partner with Title I schools in New York City, as well as our first out-of-state expansion in Denver, Colorado, where students through their school day and after school programming get a really hands-on experiential opportunity to explore STEM topics as well as food justice, advocacy, and health and wellness.
I actually would like a follow-up with you, which is, what do you see the impact? Oh, sorry. What is the impact of teaching kids about food and nutrition, like in terms of how they eat, how they see food, how they go back to their families, all of it? So few people do that.
Sure, yes. So it's a great question, and we find, which in our prep I think will resonate across the panel, that really just starting with sharing food together is a really great entry point to discuss not only health and how food impacts us, how food makes us feel, from a nutrition and health perspective, but how we connect with each other, how we build relationships. So I think starting there with our programs, always finding time to plant the seeds, transplant, get the kids as involved as possible in the whole 360 experience of growing the food and understanding how these high-tech systems work so that they have ownership of that process. And then ultimately 5 weeks later, often getting to harvest and cook and prepare something delicious and tasty that they have input in deciding what it is that we're going to transform the lettuce, kale, basil into. Creates those small changes, I think, that build on themselves throughout the program. So we're seeing more, maybe not always more excitement to go to our school cafeterias, which is one of our big distribution outlets for our farms, but a care for the food options that are available, and I think power that the young people feel in being able to say, like, well, this is what I'm having only 2 floors up from the cafeteria. How can we make those changes for ourselves and for our peers?
Chris, do you want to answer the same question, but also you deal with disconnected youth. So how is that impacted? And can you define what disconnected youth means?
Well, I don't think I'd use the term disconnected. I mean, they're proven risk young adults, but they're also impact young adults. They were young adults who were probably having the most impact on their communities, possibly in a negative way, and they were being impacted as well. So it's sort of along those lines. But yeah, with food and nutrition, we came out of we had a suite of food enterprises. We had a booming catering business, an events business, and a restaurant. We had an incubator kitchen that was going strong. Um, and then COVID hit, and the bottom sort of fell out of all that stuff. We'd struggled before with, really getting a strong foothold with nutrition and our young adults. And so when COVID hit, we sort of out of need, we ended up, we have all these young adults who are relying on us for, a couple meals a day at least. So we immediately went to doing internal emergency food relief for those guys. Figured out we were really good at it, and then started expanding with some of our partner organizations, community organizations that we partner with on different levels to do some distribution for us. We created some new partnerships with people in the supply chain to get us, farm fresh food at, dirt cheap or practically nothing prices, and sort of set up our own thing and brought the young adults back into it. At the same time, we took advantage of a period of no programming for young adults during COVID to revamp our curriculum and add a really solid food justice piece. And when we added that, it was eye-opening to see these. First, they got really mad, when we were talking about food apartheid and how systemic situations were affecting them directly. They got mad about that, and we talked about the workplace and what can you really do, if you're going to go into culinary at an entry level? What's it like? It's really exploitive, and it's a tough business. It's still mad again. And then we started, we had this tangible piece where we were working in the community, bringing food to um, different organizations that had different cultural makeups, and doing different food for each one of them, and they were able to identify with it. And then they're looking at the food, and oh, okay, now I understand what healthy, culturally appropriate food is. And it really has snowballed from there. We've just recently taken on providing food for our TUGen, our early education center, that we have on campus at UTEC. And that has really brought it full circle. So we've got this real vertical integration with the community, with the young adults, where they're there all the time, but they've got kids in the TUGen center. Now they're excited about what's my kid putting in their body, and we're providing food for the Council on Aging up in Haverhill, and they have grandparents who are there, and they're really excited about making sure that their abuela gets the right stuff. So that was a real eye opener for us at UTEC.
Great. Monique?
What was the question? Education, how nutrition education impacts young people. Yeah, okay. I got what you said kind of got my brain going in a different direction, thinking about how.
Answer my question.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll
However you
answer
wanna
it
talk it
all.
out.
I agree with what has been said, that when we provide opportunities for young people to take power over decisions that impact them on a daily basis, it resonates with them and it sticks, and they get excited about being able to exhibit that power. And so decisions and information kind of go hand in hand with building that confidence. But when you were talking, thinking about how young people kind of engage with the challenges that are present in the food system in their community, my 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 school district has school 4 days a week instead of 5 because we couldn't afford a 5-day school week. We have had community eligibility provision for the school nutrition folks in the room. You know that that means our entire community gets free and reduced lunch, a result of our community-wide participation in SNAP. So the 2 meals plus snack that are provided a day, 4 days a week for many of the students in my community are the bulk of their nutrition intake for that day. It just so happens that we have the highest obesity rates in the entire state of Colorado for under 18 population. And so when you ask young people, hey, what do you see? What's going on? And how would you like to change it? They're not blind to these challenges. They say themselves that they're not satisfied with their school food. They're tired of the conversations constantly with their parents about their physical appearance and their health and their weight. And so then we say, all right, what are the creative ways that we can respond to this? What would you do if you could do anything, if money was no issue? And I repeat that to them all of the time. Money is not the problem. We'll find the money. What would you do? And then as they begin to come up with these ideas and do the investigation and test them out and pilot them, wow, they find so much success, and that builds their confidence. And that entrepreneurial spirit is what we're trying to kind of incentivize and support.
What are some of the ideas?
Yeah, one of the ideas that got lifted off the ground right away was a meal kit program. So we have a lot of students who are taking care of little brother, little sister, cousins, or parents just aren't around, grandma's busy, etc. And they want to know how to cook. They understand that they have options for better nutrition, but they don't have the skills to kind of put 2 and 2 together. So the students came up with a pilot program of menus that were customizable, easy to put together with very few cooking tools, and then provided all of the ingredients, plus an instruction booklet, plus a YouTube video where you could follow along with someone who looked like them to kind of create these options. And yeah, this was of their own devise. So that was one of the ideas. We're in a feasibility assessment now for a youth-led chicken coop, which I'm really, really pumped about, but maybe we can talk about that after we share other ideas.
Want to say some of the good ideas your kids have come up with?
Yeah, they're really involved in everything, all the way up and down. One of the big things that we're working on right now, I mean, they took care of all the branding. You know, when we went to doing these meals, we've now delivered 180,000 meals since the beginning of COVID, which is awesome. But they rebranded the whole thing. They went and they, you know, designed the logos, and they, you know, we have one of our values at UTech is that we show mad love unconditionally to members of our community. Well, it's Mad Love Meals now, so that's awesome. So there's some ownership there, and that's really inspiring. Um, One of the things that we don't have right now, because we never reopened our restaurant, is that in the workforce development program is that customer service, that front facing venue, and for the relief food, we don't have a good, safe way to deliver hot, handmade meals to people. So these guys are all about the food truck now. So look for that one to come sometime soon. And that's really actually, you know, checks another box where if we want to deliver that entrepreneurship part of the curriculum, you know, having rotating crews coming in on these things and setting them up. So it's yeah, a lot of good stuff going on.
Renee?
Yes, I think a lot of the initiatives y'all have already shared definitely resonate with our experiences, and I can maybe elaborate on a little bit about school food. We in New York City also have community eligibility for free lunch for all of our public school students, and with our new mayoral administration last year rolled out plant-powered Fridays. Uh, Meatless and beyond Fridays, which students can appreciate perhaps the intention and definitely do not appreciate the execution. Um, so in response to that, similar to what Monique already shared, you know, you ask the kids, okay, well, we have a farm here. You have opinions. You have thoughts. How do we respond? How do you want to handle this? So last year, a group of students worked together, both interestingly with each other, with Teens for Food Justice, but also with their school cafeteria staff to launch a student-run ramen bar that existed alongside of Plant Powered Fridays during lunch. The cafeteria staff were willing to prepare the ramen noodles for us and dish out like the hot water that would go along with it because that was a safety hazard. So they were fully on board and in partnership with this. But our students, they created the recipes for a variety of sauces that students who tested the ramen could add. As we sort of said, you know, there's nothing wrong with the ramen packets. We love them. You know, it's great. But in the school setting, you know, it's a non-starter. You know, when you think about the nutrition requirements to actually have school lunch in public schools, sodium too high from the get-go. So let's think about some alternatives. So they created recipes, they created sauces, they created they grew and harvested bok choy and herbs that would be served with the ramen. They created with our cucumbers that we can grow hydroponically, like a soy cucumber salad that went along with the ramen. And then they had feedback cards for their peers to give them feedback on their ramen, on their school lunch alternative. And the feedback was not all positive. The kids got as much, you know, it could have been more flavorful, it could have been tastier feedback. But it was something I think for us that we heard from students was, you know, students will spend months on end despite free lunch not going to the cafeteria. They will go somewhere else. But this got their peers curious enough to come to the cafeteria to try something that they're familiar with, that they want to eat, and then to provide feedback on it and have that be heard. So I think, you know, just speaking to the ownership, the partnerships that can happen within school buildings between students and other stakeholders on campus, that project, you know, was just something that we really appreciated, and students left, I think, also with a lot more empathy for their cafeteria workers, which was a really not necessarily expected outcome, but one that highly valuable.
So I have sort of a double question, which is the first is, what is your advice to this audience about how to integrate the teen and the young adult voice into their businesses, their whatever it is they're doing? And then the second part, which is completely different, is what do you want from them? Like, what do you want to advise them to do? And then you all are working at nonprofits. So I know you need money, but other than that, are you looking for advice? Are you looking for board members? Like what do you want? Do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. I would say that the young people in your community are just as sharp as the adults in your community and have less chips on their shoulder when it comes to problem solving. So the offer that I would extend is to find ways to meaningfully and authentically engage your young people in creative conversation. Don't walk in thinking you know what they're going to say. Really create space for them to say it. And sometimes that takes a lot of time. And sometimes it takes unique ways of communicating. It's not just sitting around in a circle and thinking the conversation's going to pop off. So, if you really care about integrating your young folks into the solutions conversation, be patient and allow that to happen naturally, because it will when you make them feel confident that they're being listened to. So I'd say that's number one. And food is a great way to do that. A little bit of snacks in the middle and see where you go from there. Um, what would I ask for? Yeah, we too have had success in partnerships with unlikely partners, city government, 4-H, different farmers. So I think depending on the creative solution that your young people decide to bring forward, constantly extending the yes is going to be really key. You know, we don't have to say like, hey, that's a crazy idea and it's never going to work. Break it down and take it one step at a time and then figure out what the ask is from there. You know, it'd be great if everyone wrote us a check, but actually it's not really the money that's the issue. It's helping our young people understand that there's an arc of a project and a solution and thought, and you know, those soft skills and the little yeses from partners make a big difference for them to say like, wow, I am getting somewhere, and look at this person came out of the blue to support us. So if there's an opportunity to take it one step at a time and you're that partner that's going to make it stand out, then please do that.
That's great. Chris?
I could just say ditto. That was really good. But similarly, yeah, I mean, I think it's if you want to look at it from, you know, what can employers do? What can we do inside the food system? I think that how are we going to meet this emerging workforce where they are, where they're coming from? These guys are thoughtful. They're really thoughtful. They're really about justice. They're really about community, not just in the, you know, in the small community that they live in, but in the broader sense of the word, they're about community. They're hyper communicative, and you know, how do we set things up at places of work, places in the food system to, you know, meet them where they already are, so that they can take us the rest of the way to where we need to be um, in the future. So that would be, I think it would be my ask on both levels. Yeah, money's nice, but you know, let's see if we can, you know, carve out a niche for these guys. These guys they're brilliant.
Yes, I think just to underscore my colleagues up here, I think something that, as I've been listening to the other panels, you know, I think it's easy sometimes to think about our young people, our teenagers, as this huge population of consumers, whether it's, you know, literally consumers of our products or of our information or of things online, things that we create, things that we generate. But our young people are a huge part of our, obviously a huge part of our community, are huge stakeholders within themselves that offer, as Chris and Monique have already said, so many assets. They bring so much to the table. So it's really, I mean, this is really underscoring what has already been said, but creating those opportunities and pathways to have them be involved in from the start, and so that their ideas are truly on and at the table would be underscored offer from my end. And maybe just the other thing would be, I think echoing what Monique shared, we don't often find it's resonant to prescribe to the young people to say we know, I know, so you should too. Um, that really hasn't we haven't found that to be a very successful way of bringing young people in and making them feel heard and trusted. So those would be my two offers, I guess. And then the ask, I think, when I was listening to the workforce panel, something that we talk about with our programs in our hydroponic farms is, there's so much more career and technical education opportunities, whether it's not necessarily just in hydroponics or urban ag, but in green technology more broadly. So working, not just stopping at the college level, really looking at high school and middle schools as opportunities to create pathways to employment with upward mobility, micro credentialing, some of the other things that other panels have spoken about. Or the more we can do that, I think the more opportunities we provide to our young people in really meaningful and sustainable ways.
Time for questions? Anybody have any questions for them?
This is great. Thank you so much for the great conversation. I'm curious to know if you have been able to, or have maybe plans to, thinking longitudinally, looking at in a few years from now, how have these young folks' dietary habits sustained or continued to be changed thanks to the great work that you're doing?
I can offer one quick example. We had a student transition from high school into university and was living in a dorm and came back to the group and said, "Whoa, all I have is this microwave now. What can we do?" And so put the question back, well, what can you do? And so devised a whole healthy cooking out of a microwave curriculum that they've now implemented with their peers, folks who were never involved in the Fuji Kits before, but had the same interest. So found the funding, found the mechanism, made it cool, and they've had a series of cooking lessons now. So the idea of, feeding themselves with food that they're interested in carried forward, even though their contexts change. Okay, well, now you're in this new context. How do we solve for that? So I would say it sticks. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I touched a little bit on our work with families, with the two gen center that we have at work, and the young adults who have kids over there. What I'm really interested to see, and it's funny. We're providing a couple meals a day for the two gen center every day. We always make a lot too much, and the teachers are packing it up and taking it home. So these kids are bringing the young adults are working on it. The kids are bringing it home. Is this going to start, make a change in the family eating pattern? Where it was 2 3 nights a week, it was probably Jamaican meat patties or fried chicken from the bodega, or Wendy's $5 biggie bag. But now that they're getting this stuff in, we're making it available for them. That I think that's really going to be the lever that gets us there.
I think it's a great question. It's one that we do think about quite a bit and is a challenge. I think sometimes when you do have students transitioning either between middle school and high school to whatever's next, and we don't have that fully figured out. I think for us operating with schools and having one of our customers really being the school cafeteria, on some level I think it'd be interesting for us to look at sort of longitudinally, maybe is there an increase in variety of product offerings that we send to the cafeteria that are getting consumed in our school cafeterias, in our partner sites where we have these hydroponic farms and programming. So maybe keeping it, obviously it's not following the same group, but sort of a similar population that moves through the program. And because we have real success with cucumbers and butterhead lettuce, but being able to track maybe over time, can we expand that, and a little bit of a different way of maybe thinking about that.
Thanks, everybody.